everybody, this is Carolina Millan, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Hustle. And today we are with Anik Singal. Did I pronounce it well?
You did. Yes, actually. Many people say it very wrong, but you got it exactly right. Thank you.
Yay, awesome. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And for those of you who may not know about Anik, the whole point of this call is for you to get to know him, his projects. He's one of the big entrepreneurs that I've been following for some time. He's the CEO and founder of Learn, an educational company. You'll have to tell us more about Learn as well. And author of the book eScape. I'm very curious to talk about your book. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's a book. We'll be talking about that. So just for the few people who, maybe 2 or 3 people who may not know who you are, please share with us your story, how you got started, and what was the turning point in your career?
Sure. Yeah. So I always ask when people say, "Tell us your story." I'm like, man, how much time do we have? Because I really do have, I have that iconic like entrepreneurial story, right? Like that started with nothing and rise to the top and then crash to the bottom, like worse than bottom, like seriously, like nearly an alcoholic, nearly dead, just horrible, like horrible, and then climb to the back top. But here's my backstory. So as you can tell, I'm an Indian American descent, right? So like my family's all from India. And I was born here, but everyone around me was a like engineer, lawyer, or doctor. Doctors were like, "Oh, you're a doctor, right?" Ever been to a hospital in America? You'll see doctors everywhere. They're Indians. And so I grew up, it was like, oh, I want to be a doctor because I felt like that's what everybody who was making a lot of money, had a lot of respect, that's what they were doing. They were becoming doctors. So that's what I want to do. So I study hard, I work hard, I get into pre-med school, I get into one of the best programs in the entire world. And I get there and it's like within, I think the first few days, I remember my eyes, I opened and I was like, uh-oh, like, this is not right for me. I don't want to do this. Like I couldn't go to another biology class, or I was petrified of telling my parents though, because they were so proud, right? I was in this full scholarship program. I mean, it was like everything I had dreamt of getting towards, I was there. So it took a while. It took me about 1.5 years. And finally, one of my friends encouraged me. She was like, you got to go talk to your parents. It's ridiculous. So I did. I went and spoke to my parents, and my parents were amazing. They were so supportive. They said, look, we don't agree, but you should do what you want. We'll always be here. We'll always support you. So I switched. I lost my full scholarship. I did all this. And I was like, I want to do business. That's right. I'm going to go into business. So I switched universities. I go to business school. I get into one of the top business schools in the country. I'm there. And like 2 weeks later, I'm like, crap, I hate this too. And so now I'm like, am I just destined to be like a college dropout loser kid? Like what's going on? I don't like anything. And that was when I really had to do some deep soul searching. And I discovered something. I didn't really discover I was an entrepreneur per se, but I discovered that I was really tired of theory all the time. Learn. Go to school, you learn, you take classes, you learn, you cram, you take an exam, you cram again, you take another exam. I was like, I want to go do. Like, I'm tired of people telling me I have to wait to get like a degree to make money. Like, why I want to go do now? And so, I started thinking back to when I was a kid, when I was in 3rd grade and I'm running a lemonade stand, but I was the 3rd grader running a lemonade stand, hiring 1st graders to run the lemonade stand. Like I was inside watching cartoons and my business was running outside on the curb. So I'm like, there's something there. And that's when I start to think like, maybe I'm an entrepreneur, right? Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. Because it's funny in college, right? So it's I love your podcast on Beyond the Hustle, right? But in college, we're all taught like everyone's always out like partying and you're frat parties and you're having fun and doing all this. I was looking for the hustle. I wanted to take that time and I wanted to build my future. So I turn to Google. Okay. This is when Google just kind of started. So think about like, that was like 15, 16 years ago. I turned to Google. I literally typed in how to make money. That's all I knew. And Google auto-filled online. It's like how to make money online. And I thought, okay, sure. Why the heck not? So I said, yes, I'll do that one. And so that led to a lot of, people say, I love that when people talk about their overnight success story. So I say, yeah, I have an overnight success story. Literally, I made like my first big payday in one night after 18 months of failing and struggling and beating my head against a wall. And I'll tell you, I'm glad we talk about beyond the hustle because there was no shortage of hustle during those 18 months. I worked super hard. I literally worked so hard. There was no lack of hustle at all, but I wasn't getting the success I wanted. Like it wasn't happening until one night I finally go to this forum where I used to post all the time and get help. And I was like, that's it. I quit. Sorry guys. Thank you so much for your help. You are all amazing. It's not for me. It won't work. I'm giving it 24 hours. If it doesn't work, I quit. And all the best to all of you. And that was when somebody comes onto the forum and says, kid, been watching you for a long time. Don't want to see you quit. I have no history on the forum, and I don't participate on this forum, but I'm going to help you for the next 24 hours. Till this day, I don't know who that person was. He, she, no idea, no name, nothing. First angelic moment of my life, really, because that night I stayed up until about 3 a.m. working with this person. You know what? Finally passed out. 6 hours later, I wake up, run to my computer. It's a true story. In college still. I actually had an exam that day. I run to my computer. It's been 6 hours. In 6 hours of sleeping, I had made $300. I'd made more money 6 hours of sleeping than I had made 18 months, combined. Yeah. It was crazy. Major breakthrough moment for me. So that was my first big pivotal. You asked for pivot times. My first big pivot, my first big takeoff point in my life. And then it goes in I was like a rocket. It just took off. And next thing I know, I'm graduating and I have my business is doing $1 million a year. I don't need to get a job. I'm crushing it. I'm traveling first class, living the life of my dreams. And all my friends are like, wow, look at you. And I'm driving nice cars and, still living at home because I was too busy traveling the world. Literally, I would come home for a week. I mean, I'm not going to buy a house for that. So I just stay at my parents' house and then travel off again. Did that for 6 years. Built my company from that $100 I had started with to $10 million a year. 96 employees, 3 offices worldwide, 2 in India, 1 in the US. 2008 comes along. Economy collapses. Everything collapses. And by 2011 actually, I'm $1.7 million in debt. I'm 27, 28 years old. Wow. My parents had to take a second mortgage. My parents had spent their whole life paying off their house. My father had to take a second mortgage on his home to help me pay my bills. My best friend gave me his life savings, $170,000. MasterCard, Visa, American Express, banks, everybody money. My phone was blowing up all the time. I literally started drinking profusely. I would disappear for a week at a time. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those movies, Carolina, where there's that actor in the dingy corner of a busted motel with a paper bag whiskey bottle and it's storming outside and lightning. And it's the saddest scene of ever. Mm-hmm. Been there, done that. That was you. I did it. I actually lived that Hollywood moment in Goa, India. It took me the longest time to talk about that because it was the lowest lows of my life. But I started talking about it. Now I talk about it openly. That was a wake-up call for me. I had a second angelic moment where I nearly died. I was 1 hour from death. I was on a plane. I blacked out. Luckily, the person sitting next to me noticed, and they waved down the flight attendant right before the plane took off. Next thing I know, I'm being smacked awake, and I'm tied to a stretcher and being pulled off the plane. The plane was on the runway, pulled over. They found out later I had bled out 40% of my body's blood, and that had the plane taken off, I would have died over the Atlantic Ocean in a stroke or gone into shock from loss of blood. So that was a wake-up call. That was my true wake-up call. And those both, the Goa moment with the drinking, and that happened within about a week and a half of one another. And I came home and I said, I'm not going out like this. I became an entrepreneur for financial freedom. Man, I am tied down to the bed right now. I can't even pee. I got to get someone to help me get up and go to the bathroom. This is not freedom. So I literally finally opened my ears. I went from 96 employees to 6. I shut down all my 3 offices and I went back to the basics, to the core. And I said, Anik, what the heck happened? Who were you during the first 6 years where your business went like this? And who were you during the time I went like this? And let's repeat the guy who went like this. Mm-hmm. And I started asking the right questions. And you know what? It was during that time that the journey to write this book began. And that was when I started to figure out there were some core concepts to becoming an entrepreneur that are emulated and done by the most successful entrepreneurs all over the world that we are not taught, that very few people know, and that have never been put together in one book. And that was what led me to writing this book. And it became a mission. It became a true purpose of mine to go decode what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Why do people succeed? Why was I able to climb, collapse, and then when I came back, by the way, I paid back. I leveled out, figured out my answers, asked the right questions, paid back every penny of my debt in exactly 16 months. $1.7 million paid off. I was back on my track to being on the top. Today, I have 6 companies collectively doing over $30 million a year in revenue. And I love every second of my life. That includes the hard days, the good days, the horrible days, the best days. And it was because of the answers I found on the journey when I was writing this book. And so I literally, what I did, and Damon John wrote the foreword to this book.
That's awesome.
Shark Tank. And he literally said, he read the book and he said, Anik, I don't know how you did it, but you decoded everything I look for When I'm on Shark Tank looking to make an investment, I don't care about their business. I don't care about their product. I care about the person behind all of it. And everything you mentioned in this book is exactly what I look for. So that's why he wrote the foreword to it. So very blessed to have had the journey. I've had the ups and I've had the downs. I've had it all. And now my entire life is devoted to my entire purpose outside of the nonprofit work my wife and I do is all about empowering entrepreneurs. We adopt villages in East Africa, and every village we adopt, we microfund 50 businesses in each village. Our statistics and data have already been proven out. We literally bring 1,000 people out of extreme poverty in each village that we go into. And my wife and I also built 9 schools in India for children who live in the slums. So outside of that work, I have only one other thing I wake up every morning and I think about, and that is we want to put 1 million entrepreneurs through Learn Nation, empower and educate and give them a community. And I think that's how I'll change the world. I'm confident that I'm going to change the world by building an army of entrepreneurs that go out and change the world. So, that's my journey. That's where it's taken me to date. And that brings me right up to the time when I'm here on this podcast with you.
I love it. I love it. That's a very inspirational story. I love that you shared the fall, right? The two, like when you started from the bottom, then went up, then back to the bottom, then back up. I love that. And you did mention one thing. You said it twice. You said you started asking the right questions. I'm very curious to know because, the power of questions is I hear so many other people talking about this. What do you think are the right questions? Like maybe you can share a couple examples, and then how do you identify those questions?
I got to tell you, I'm very impressed that you caught that because it's a big part. It's a big part of what I teach. So I've been noticing a lot, like we have a really awesome team here at Learn. So I'm roaming around, like right now I actually took a break because I'm running a class. So instead of running classes for our students, I now run classes for our team. So I'm actually teaching copywriting to our team for the next 2 weeks. And so I find myself, I listen to a lot of what I say to them nowadays as I'm teaching them and mentoring them. And one of the first things I always say is, I'll be sitting in a meeting. I try really hard. I'm like, you're not going to talk. I'm just going to listen to these guys, like just 6, 7 in the room. I'm just going to listen to them. And I'm listening and they're trying to problem solve. And the whole time I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh, you're almost there, but you're not asking the right questions. Everyone is trying to jump to conclusions. I'm baffled by this. I learn now that when we get into a room and someone proposes a problem, we're so quick to want to jump to the conclusions. Do you know that the entire world of psychology is built off of asking the right questions? The way patients are cured and treated by psychiatrists and psychologists all over the world, no psychologist usually ever gives advice.
Right.
They ask questions. And if you want the right solution, you got to ask the right questions. So I'll sit in a room and I'll listen for them and I'll say that I look for the right questions. And the second thing I always say, which is unrelated to this, but I just like saying it, is I find myself saying it all the time. I say, guys, data talks, emotions walk. Like, this is why people jump to making conclusions, because they're purely driven by emotions and feelings and aren't looking at the data. If you can train yourself to look at data, you innately end up asking the right questions. When you see certain data move, you'll say, why did that point go down? Well, now all of a sudden you asked an empowering question that gives you control and lets you out and research things. So examples of great questions. Who's your customer? I really mean it. Who's your customer? Can you give me a visual? Could you tell me their name? How do they dress? Are they married? Are they male, female? What age group? Do they have kids? What kind of car do they drive? What color do they like? What's their favorite brand? Like, how much can you tell me about your customer, what their avatar is? That's a question that really defined my future and my company and how I built it. Another great question to ask is, why do you want to be wealthy? Like, most people I'm going to imagine on this podcast want to be wealthy, right? Most people who become entrepreneurs want to be wealthy. Why? It's a pain. It's actually a pain. The process of becoming wealthy is painful, right? And then even when you become wealthy, you end up just wanting more wealth. And they say more money, more problems. That's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
Why do you want more money? Like, and I love this question, Carolina. I ask my students, I ask people all the time, they're like, I don't know. Like, well, that's crazy. That's like me starting to run. I'm out running for 15 miles and someone's like, why are you running? I'm like, I don't know. Just want to run. Like, I'm not going to do that. It sucks. It hurts.
I just felt like running.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be Forrest Gump and just start running, and I know why. So why do you want to be wealthy? The definition of an entrepreneur right here is I do it in chapter 2. There's this visual right here. If you can see that, I came up with a visual. The visual is simple. What is an entrepreneur? the dictionary defines an entrepreneur by what an entrepreneur does. It's bullcrap. Okay. It's not what an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur is who you are. An entrepreneur is very simple. Okay. You don't have to have your own business. You can be an entrepreneur within a larger organization. We call you an intrapreneur. You find a problem, you solve the problem, and you create value. That's the key factor. You got to create value. So why do you want to be wealthy? What value are you creating? Are you making a change? Are you disrupting something? Or are you just going to make money? That's why I always laugh. I have some friends that do very well in the stock markets, and they do really, really well. And they want me to invest, and they say, let me teach you. And I'm like, but I don't want to learn this. They're like, why? I'm like, I don't know. It's not fun. Like, at the end of the day, I've only talked to myself, made myself money. Like, I haven't like helped anybody. Like, I haven't done anything. So for me, it doesn't make sense. Who's your customer? Why do you want to be wealthy? Why do you want to make money? You know, these are the kinds of questions, that core questions. And you know what's amazing? When you can answer a question with more questions. I love that. Because every time you answer a question with more questions, you're getting deeper and deeper in. You're getting more specific, and you're nailing it. And boom, there's going to be a moment where you have an actual answer, and it'll have a ripple effect on all your other questions. And before you know it, everything unfolds, and you actually see reality and truth in who you are and what you want to be, rather than what you've created, this vision, this fantasy based on popular demand.
They got to dig deeper. So that's why it's so important what you said about answering the question with another question, or with why, but why, until you uncover the reality.
So Carolina, in like chapter 3, 4, and 5 in this book, right, I go over children. I talk about children in a book about entrepreneurship. Why the heck would I talk about children? But I talk about, and I prove in chapter 5 of this book, I literally prove that we are all born entrepreneurs, using examples of how children behave in certain situations. So I have 2 nephews. The one who's 6.5 years old, I love him to death because he's been a guinea pig for me for the last 4 years. I love just watching him, seeing him, observing him, how he thinks. I'm all about psychology. But children, we laugh at children, right? They like to say, why, why? Everything is why. But why don't you do that to yourself once? I'm telling you, anyone who's listening, just start asking. Every question is why. Man, it'll be frustrating. You're going to get really frustrated at some point, okay? But then there will be a point in time in which you're going to get to an underlying answer, and you go, whoa, mind blown, did not know that. Holy crap. So I love it when little kids are like, why? I'm like, okay, this kid's going to get me somewhere. Like, I'm going to have to answer the why again until I get to a core answer here.
I know. That's so true.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, most people never answer. And it's not because we don't want to be honest or truthful. It's because we don't actually know the answer. No one's helped us actually discover our answer. So that's usually why.
That's true. So with the book, you mentioned that the process of writing the book started several years ago. And you published it when? Just a couple months ago, right?
It's probably about a month and a half. We've already moved over 30,000 copies of it. Which is,
congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to place a link in the description, by the way, for the episode where you guys can get the book, of course. Tell us a little more about it. What are you most proud of? And also, I know the title is an acronym, so I'd love for you to dive into that, and what can people expect from it as well?
Yeah, well, so this book started with a really funny, it's not funny, but kind of a weird reason what kicked off the actual book. So I would say the journey to discover what's in the book started, of course, when I was on my climb back up. But about 3 years ago, there was an official moment where I started a research project, which led to the publishing of this book. What happened is I had an individual who was so insistent on getting personal mentoring from me. This was about a little over 3 years ago. And I was saying no. All right. But that wouldn't stop. I said, I don't have time. I'm busy. One stop. I said, name your price. All right. I threw out a crazy number. And they bought a four-day package. I'm like, okay, now I have to do it. Like, okay, fine. Come on down. In the 4 days that this person was with me, I was so excited. They were so smart. Oh, I thought smarter than me. They were figuring things out fast. Boom, boom. Action taker, getting things done. I was like, you know what? This person's going to be a millionaire in the next year. It's going to be an amazing case study. I'm so excited to have this person have this ridiculous success, so talented. Same time, someone bought one of my courses for $500 online and got access to one of our Facebook groups. And I'm usually pretty active in our Facebook groups. I look around, at least I read stuff. And this person was in there. They were active. But they were asking some super silly questions. And I remember one time thinking like, God, this person's a little bit annoying, right? But I was like, poor guy. Like, I don't think he's going to make it. He's asking some really basic questions. Well, you know what? Exactly 3 months later, Because I ran into both people around the same time. So from the time the person came to visit me to the time I saw this person on the Facebook group, it was kind of like within a week of each other. 3 months later, the person who had paid the big bucks to come see me and spend 4 days with me was still treading water. Just boom, on the same place. And I was so angry at this person because they left after 4 days. I was so invested in them that I kept coaching, kept mentoring, kept doing calls all for free because I was like, you can get to be huge. And they were just getting in their own way and they were naggy and question. It was just weird. It wasn't the same person I thought I'd met. This other person, 3 months later, quit their day job. They were already building a 6-figure business. Wow. Today, multi 7 figures earned. And I told this person recently, I said, you know what? My depression over your success is what led to the writing of this book. Wow. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yes, because what happened is at the time that this occurred 3 years ago, I have taught over 200,000 people worldwide who've paid me money to learn entrepreneurship from me at this point for over 10 years. I said, what this person did when they succeeded, even though I didn't believe they would succeed, is they proved me wrong in every way and proved to me that I don't know jack crap about what it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur. And I started challenging myself saying, why don't I have 200,000 case studies of success stories? They get access to the same training, same coaching, same everything. Why did this person make it and the one I thought wouldn't? And that kept me up at night. Genuine story, genuine truth. All right. So I started doing some research. I said, there's got to be something I'm missing. It's not about opt-in pages, funnels, Facebook ads. It's not about that stuff. It's got to be about something deeper. So I looked at my own story. I said, you know what? I'm pretty impressive. Like I literally built, crashed, came back up. How did I do that? Most people would have crashed 1.7 million in debt at the age of 28. Like that's pretty painful. How did I come back? Okay, I said that. Okay, now I dared to call my failure students, the ones who had quit. I called them. I said, can I talk to you? Can I interview you? They're like, oh, sure, Anik. Okay. I'm like, why'd you quit? What happened? How were you thinking? How were you feeling? What did you do? How was your day like? And then I called the ones who have become millionaires. So let me talk to you. I talked to them also. And then before I knew it, I had lunch with Warren Buffett. I had emails with Mark Cuban. I sat across the table from Damon John, Robert Kiyosaki, Les Brown, Bob Proctor, Kevin Harrington. I started talking to them like, what does it take? And you know what? I never actually, honest to God, ever expected that I would find a formula or I really would see any consistency. I thought everyone's different. And all of a sudden, I start to see recurring trends and behaviors, 20 of them specifically, that are showing up again and again and again and again in the very successful entrepreneurs. So out of that, I was able to it literally was like a divine moment where I was able to create this really cool acronym where I figured out after all this research, and I wrote this book, by the way, this is my third writing. The first two were thrown in the trash. It wasn't good enough. So what I always ask everyone is to look at the logo. And if you're listening to this and can't have a visual, just think of the word escape, right? So little e, the first E is little, and then all the letters afterwards are capital SCAPE. There's a little arrow from the little e under to the big E, and that's how to go from employee to entrepreneur. All right, employee to entrepreneur. And the letters in between, S, C, A, and P, are the acronym to becoming a successful entrepreneur. So SCAP, we have self, catapult, authority, and people. Self, catapult, authority, and people. And so these are the 4 stages. So we actually built a triangle, which is on the back cover of the book. There's a triangle right there that literally shows you the stages that people walk through. And so S, if we have a few minutes, I'll go over it. S.
Yes, please.
All about you. It's all about you as a person. Listen, tomorrow, Carolina, what's your favorite sport?
To watch or to play?
Either.
Tennis, I would say.
Tennis. Okay. So one of my favorites as well. So good choice. So let's say Pete Sampras. Okay. One of my favorite players, Andre Agassi, one of the classics, the old timers, right? Serena Williams, Venus Williams, like any really good player. MVP's been playing tennis their whole life. They're amazing at it. They're amazing. They've won all the Grand Slams. They've done everything. One day they wake up and they're like, man, I'm a really good athlete. I'm going to play golf today. I'm going to start playing professional golf from today. Like, we would all look at that person and check their forehead if they have a temperature. We would think they're crazy because it's ridiculous. just because you're a great athlete doesn't mean you can play any sport. You're a trained tennis player. You can't just switch one day to baseball and be any good. You're going to have to start all over again.
Well, and some of them have tried.
Some of them have tried.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. No one's mentioned any names there, buddy. Jordan. So this is S. What do people do? Literally, most entrepreneurs will try attempting it in their late 30s, mid 40s, late 40s. There's actually stats we published in the book that prove it. Most entrepreneurs are actually post 50. Why? Okay. Well, I've been very successful. I've saved up the money. I have an idea. Let's become an entrepreneur. That is like a tennis player saying, let's become a, golfer. It's ridiculous because you've been coded in a certain way. The way you think has been coded by society in a completely different way. Look, in self, I talk about one simple thing. We are not taught to be self-accountable. We are not taught to live our lives for ourselves. Ever since we are 2 or 3 years old, from the first day we understand the power of the word no, from the first day that we understand the power of praise or receiving praise, that very moment we start to actually live for other people and live for what it is that other people want for us. So we go through high school, we work hard to build up our rap sheet so we can graduate, so that this one admission officer somewhere in freaking the clouds is going to look at our stuff and decide whether we're good enough for their university or not.
Yep.
Right? Then we get into university. Does it end? Now you got to do your internships, get good grades so that this guy who comes in or gal who comes in to recruit you, they're a recruiter, they're going to interview you. 30 minutes, they determine what your worth is, if you're going to work at the company or not. So you got to live to impress. Then you finally get that job. You go to work that very first day, better impress your boss if you want that promotion. Okay, then you get a promotion. Better impress your next boss if you want the next promotion. So you're constantly living in a cycle. So the self, you have to be decoded before we can even recode you. Because all of a sudden, when you hit the snooze button, there's no one on the other side of that to yell at you. You're hitting the snooze button for yourself. I know. We're just not taught what to do with that, so we can't process it. Moving right along, stage 2, catapult, C. Deal with this all the time with my students. Anik, I want to make $1 million. Tell me what to do. I'm like, okay. Have you made 100 yet? I don't want to make 100. I want to make $1 million. Come on, tell me, where do I push? What button do I push? I'm like, listen, you make $100 first, then I want you to make 1,000. How do you make 1,000? I want you to do what you did to make 100 10 times. You make 1,000. Then I want you to make 10,000. How do you make 10,000? Do what you did to make 1,000 10 times. You make 10,000. And I'm telling you, Carolina, they look at me and they're like, oh, you suck. This is not the answer I was expecting or wanting. Mm-hmm. It's the truth. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Everyone wants to take the elevator or the escalator. No one wants to take the steps. The only way to get there is through the steps. So in Catapult, we talk about Newton's laws of physics and how they apply to success. Newton's laws of physics literally state an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an opposing force, and an object in rest will remain in rest until acted upon by a opposing force. So imagine a car that's in neutral that you've got to push. It takes, it takes 4 or 5 people pushing with all they got to get the car moving. Once a car's moving, the tires are moving, one person can coast along behind it and keep the car going. So that's momentum. So many of us don't even have what it takes in the beginning. The beginning is the hardest. And once you get past that first hump, then momentum picks up. Or worse, I have this with my students all the time. They work super hard. They get momentum going. One thing goes wrong in their life and they throw it all away. Yeah. Now the car is at rest again, and you got to do all that work to get momentum going. So we teach that. We have 5 principles in S, 5 in C, 5 in A, 5 in P, 20 total characteristics. Third, A, authority, leadership. How much opportunity do we get through our traditional educational system to actually build authority and leadership? None.
Not much.
If you walk into a classroom, 3rd or 4th graders, you got about 30 kids, 40 kids let's say 40 kids in the classroom. How many class leaders do you have? 1. 39 kids are just sitting there, not getting an opportunity to learn leadership. Well, I'll tell you right now, you want to be an entrepreneur, even an intrapreneur, you can't get there unless you can inspire people and influence people. That comes through A, authority. I'm not asking you to inspire a stadium full of 30, 40,000 people into a revolution. I'm asking you to inspire your team members, your vendors, your customers. And that's a must. You have to be able to do that. Last but not least, P, for people. Right? It's very, very important that you have the right people in your life. Now, again, in the personal development industry, we are constantly taught again and again and again to remove the negative people from our lives. Well, you know what? When I was starting my business, my father was negative. When I was building this beautiful facility we've built here, 26,000 square foot facility for entrepreneurs that we built, it's $3.5 million. My mother was negative. You know what? My now wife, then girlfriend, when I told her that, when she knew she knew I was in debt, and I told her I'm launching another business to come out of debt. You know what? She was negative. You know why? Because they freaking love you. They're scared for you. They want to protect you. You're trying to do things. Like every entrepreneur is just a little crazy. They don't process the craziness. They don't get it. They can't see themselves doing it. They want to stop you from hurting yourself. That doesn't mean that they're in your way. So you got to learn to mold all those relationships into positive relationships. A great entrepreneur takes charge of every relationship in their life individualistically, not holistically. I am a different person. Carolina, I'm speaking to you today. I'm different. I'm adapting to our relationship here, adapting to our flow. You know, I'm adapting to that big, gorgeous smile you have. I can tell how warm and welcoming you are. Versus, honest to God, I was doing another podcast a few hours ago with a person who's the exact opposite. Wow. He was a little bit more in your face, you know, kind of eyebrows always doing this. And then I adapted to that. Yeah. Right. But that's why I get along with everybody. And that's why and so you need to have the right people in your life. And that's the final frontier. And it's the toughest one to hit entrepreneurial success. And so those are the 4 stages to becoming a successful entrepreneur. This book, I will literally ship it to everybody. You just have to cover the shipping. That's it. You don't have to pay for the book. And like you said, the URL is in the notes, so you guys can go grab it. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've had 30,000 of these shipped already, and you can check Amazon. You can look at the reviews. We have 313 reviews, of which 4 are 4 stars, 309 are 5 stars. Oh, no. So we're really blessed. Just recently, someone wrote me a letter. I don't even know if people still do that, but he sent me a letter to the Learn Center.
Like a physical letter?
A physical letter, yeah.
Wow.
Handwritten, very cute, but it was by a guy who said the book saved his marriage.
Oh.
Go figure. Because of the chapter on people and how to deal with negative people. So absolutely been a blessing to write this book, to share this knowledge. And really, you know, I really did, because I couldn't find this, man. There are, I don't know how many, I think there's some data that says there's like over 1 million or so books or whatever that are currently even selling on Amazon. And not one I could find that went over what it truly takes to succeed as an entrepreneur. And that was why I wrote this book. And it's been a blessing so far.
Amazing. I mean, I figured just getting that one letter already makes it all worth it. I mean, that's awesome.
Absolutely. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Awesome. Well, I got to finish my book, man.
Yes,
someday.
You do. Yeah.
Do you still have a few more minutes? I have a couple more questions for you. Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, by the way, I love that summary you just did on the book. That was wonderful. I'm sure people will really want to read it now if they didn't want to yet. So, I've been on your email list for a few years, and I've seen a few of your promotions. I'd love to hear your take on what does it take to build like at least $1 million funnel. Like, what do you think has been the process for you? And if maybe you can share what are the elements. Of course, It's very clear that first we need to take care of everything you just said, yourself, the people, etc. Once you've done that, and then you want to get into the actual doing of things. What do you think is what goes on behind the scenes?
Sure. So we talk about, like, everything we talked about so far was mindset, right? Which is about 80% of the battle. But then you can't ignore the tactical. The tactical is incredibly important, because you can have the best mindset, but if you don't know what to do, then you're not going to make it. So it's funny that you mentioned this, because I just am in the process of writing a book called The One-Page Business Model. And it's literally got 5 pillars to a successful business. And the first pillar is all about setting up your entire business. And it covers exactly what you just said. What does it take to build $1 million funnel? Well, here's my opinion. Now, first of all, I got to tell you, there's all kinds of funnels out there. So what I say right now, there will be, for everything I say, there will be 10 funnels that prove me wrong. And it all depends because, you know, no funnel's created equal. Here's what you have to look at. You have to look at your demographics. You have to look at your market. You have to look at your brand. You have to look at who you're talking to. And so the funnel I tell you right now is one of my personal favorites, because it has that is the most scalable impact. I'm all about volume here at Learn. Like I said, we want to have 1 million people in our Learn Nation. If you look at our virtual platform, we already have 142,000 people in it. So I'm all about mass access, mass influence. So for me, I want to do a funnel that's not just going to do $1 million, but it's going to touch the most number of people. So the first thing we do is come up with something like this, like a book, something that I call, this is like, for someone to get this book, I'm asking for $7.97. If there was ever risk removal in a new relationship, that's what I'm asking for. That's like asking a girl that you want to go on a date. That's like asking her to shake your hand. Not even a date. It's not even like, let's go for coffee or dinner. It's like, hey, just shake my hand. It's a completely, risk-free, nothing bad could happen. But when you come and you get this book, now we started a relationship. Now you are going to get something from me, and I trust in value. I trust in the value behind the book, that it's going to really get you and engage you. And that is when I will have a series of other ways we can work together, offers and things you can upgrade to. So I'm a big fan of the book funnel. So what I love is to have a book. I like to have about $100 or $200 upsell right after the book. And then I like to have either one of two. So it can go this way or this way. I like to have book, 109. Oh, and a bump. Sorry, I forgot. Right between the upsell and the book, there's a bump offer, which is right on the cart. It's just like a little button you can click. It gives you a $47 bump or whatever. And then I have the upsell for about 100 or 200 bucks. And then from there, either I'm going to take them into a webinar where we can talk later about more of my advanced programs and sell them $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 offer. Or since we have an amazing team of advisors here, our sales team, we'll give them an opportunity to book a call with our advisor team to learn more about our one-on-one coaching programs at Learn. Either way, I am creating more monetization, and the more monetization I create, the more money I can spend and invest in selling this book. The more money I can invest in selling this book, the more advertising I can buy. The more advertising I buy, the more my funnel gets fed. So that's one of my favorite funnels. Another one of my favorite funnels that I've probably now done well over 50 million in sales from is just pure and simple evergreen webinars. I love them because we do have a lot of amazing offers in the company that are from $500 to $2,000 in cost. And typically we like to sell those through a webinar. Facebook ad, click a link, go straight to a webinar landing page, register for a webinar, a day later, show up for webinar, go to order page, buy the product we're talking about. Nice and clean and simple. So it really just depends on, again, the audience. Like if I was to go talk to a very advanced group of people, okay, prime example. Like I want to sell to CEOs of companies that are $100 million or more in revenue. I'm not going to mess around with a free book funnel for that. I just won't, because most of those CEOs are too busy to read my book. They're probably not looking around on Facebook for a book to read. All right. I'm just going to talk to them different. So I'm going to see them at trade shows, conventions, masterminds. I'm just going to approach them differently. And my funnels, my first thing that they can buy probably will be $10,000 because that's just what the market requires. So that's why I say all shapes and funnels, different sizes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so important to know who your audience is. Who are you talking to? And that message will change. Like you just said, you adapt to whoever is interviewing you. Same thing with audiences. Maybe you don't have to have just one customer avatar, but you can have several ones and different messages for each. So awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What would be your advice for people who are just starting out, right? They're watching other entrepreneurs. They want to make it. They want to quit their job, but they have this belief that, oh, maybe I'm too late, or everything is already done, or there's Anik Singal already selling education. Why would anybody want to learn from me?
Well, Coke was very successful when Pepsi launched. McDonald's was super successful when Burger King launched. There's multiple brands. Pizza places still keep launching. I don't get it. There's so many places that sell pizza, and they're all amazing. And
sushi.
Want more and more sushi. I mean, you name it. Any kind of restaurant. How many books are there? I said there's over 1 million books, I think, alone on Amazon, and yet they're still being bought. It doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. Listen, when you're in a space that needs constant consumption of content, it's not just the content that gives your content value. It's also the delivery mechanisms and your approach to that content. So a lot of times the concepts that I teach in this book may or may not resonate with the reader in my style, but then another book comes along that might cross some of the same concepts, but teach it in a different style, and it would resonate with different people. Don't forget, there are 7 billion, not trillion, not trillion. Oh God, that'd be scary. 7 billion.
I don't think we can fit 7 trillion people on the planet.
Exactly. 7 billion people on this planet, 7.2 billion people, of which 3.6 billion have access to the internet. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the third world countries, I hate using that term, but let's say the emerging countries are booming with internet access. Booming. I mean, ridiculous amounts. And those people are just discovering the world of information online. I mean, the opportunity is so big. I don't even know how to answer that question except to say, just trust me and just move. Just go.
Just move. Just go for it.
Just go.
Awesome. Yeah. Anik, thank you so much for your time today. It's been very pleasant. I love your energy. I love everything you shared, and I'm just very excited to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, and for everyone who is listening, thank you for your time. Go out there, kick some big butt. Just work hard, and as I always say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back.
You got it. You keep that smile up as well. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for watching and listening. And remember to check the description. We're going to have the links to Anik's book and to Learn as well, to learn more about Learn. And thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon. I hope to see you sometime at some event. Who knows?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye.